This is your city. This is your city wants to know. We want to know the background, the heartbeat of what makes up our beautiful cities. We dig into the backstories from the struggles to the successes of our local entrepreneurs, small business owners, artists, not-for-profit organizations, and the many, many people who make up the intricate tapestry of our communities. Real people, real stories, by you and for you.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of This is Your City. I am Kim, your host. I thank you so much for tuning in. I want to get right to it with my guest tonight because there is so much to go over. So I want to leave room for you to talk and without me taking over the scene. But I just want to let my guests know about you. Now, you're a 3-time cancer survivor. Not only that, you had heart failure due to the treatments of the cancer.
Yeah.
Then, sticking with the heart, you also are, is it the first woman to receive a stem cell?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. And then, okay, so you've got all these like devastating things that we can't even think about. Then you get hit by a truck while you're riding your bike. I'm not laughing at that. I'm just like, what's the odds of everything you've been through and then you get hit by a truck?
And honestly, I start at the middle of the story with that. So first, let me just say thank you for letting me be on and share my story. It is a crazy story, but I always start the story in the middle because that is so much more digestible. Which is hard to believe when you hear that story. But the way I started at the age of 30. I was diagnosed with terminal lymphoma on September 11th, 1996. And I was given 8 weeks to live. And I chose to do a trial protocol at that point to see. I figured if I was going to die, let's go out trying to make sure we help somebody else and give them hope. And I'm Stayc Simpson. I live in Miami, Florida. So
I was going, and then let's get into it then.
Yeah, so we'll just get into it. I mean, honestly, it's like I'm Stayc Simpson. I am the reigning Ms. Achievement World. My title is based on hopefully my lifetime of achievements and the things that I do. I also own 2 successful businesses. One is a gymnastics studio. The other one is a pageant vlog, which is kind of strange, but I do the same thing as well, but for pageant people. So and
before you go there, because I wanted to introduce all of that to you too, but before you go there, I was going to tell them with all of that going on, she's also the reigning Miss World Achievement 2022. But thank you for telling us that, Stayc Simpson. And you've got the coolest spelling of your name. So it's Stayc. So stay where you are with a C. Very cool.
That's exactly it.
Stacey.
Yep. That is exactly it.
That's fun. But I want to, before you go there, because, people are looking at you and they're seeing your background and they're seeing this sash over your chair and this piece of a crown over there. And I love that because you are the world reigning Miss Achievement. So, and one other reason I really love that crown, Stacey, those who know me, I'm so pro women because we are so fierce and strong. I mean, you are an epitome of a strong, fierce woman. And that crown is just doubly great, if I can use those words, because of everything you've gone through, which we're going to get into. But you're such a strong woman and you have this crown and you should wear it proudly and boldly, not just because you're Miss Achievement World 2022, but because of what your life has gone through. I love that crown sitting right there. So I just wanted to get that out because I know people.
I can show it to you up close if you'd like to see, but I honestly, I keep it. It's one of a kind. So I think it's pretty unique.
Wow. Is that turquoise or is that?
Yeah, it's turquoise. So there's aquamarines that are inlaid in it. And this is part of a system called Dr. World Production. So my sister pageant is Dr. World. And then we also have Dr. America and Dr. United States, and each one of us have a different crown that has a different inlay in it. So mine is aquamarine. So luckily I love blue, so that worked out fantastically. And it is one of a kind. I love it. It was made specifically for the pageant. And if you see the front of it, the big W represents women. So
Oh, I love it.
so that is really, I love it. I love my director. She's an amazing human. I've known her for several years, and she's been in pageantry for a very long time and really inspired me to be a better person, and inspired me when I came back to pageantry at 35 to be able to, you know, do something amazing. And I always say we're changing the world using a crown and a sash, because it really gives an opportunity um, to open amazing doors. Somehow when you wear something sparkly, people go, oh really, tell me more about that.
You know what, Stacey, it's aqua, it's water, represents life, and you represent life, really. So I'm going to try not to get emotional during this interview, because I'm so emotional, but just thinking about what you've been through, aquamarine is it's fitting for you.
Thank you. I am absolutely a child of the water. I live in Miami. I need to be near the ocean. It cleans me. It makes me feel whole. I was just on the phone with a friend of mine, because I've been on quarantine for 19 months now, and I'm getting really stir crazy. I've had 2 getaways where we went to a cabin out on the water just so that I could be near the water. But that's really been my only escape in the midst of all of this. So it's been interesting, but water definitely is my thing. So it's the perfect color for me. It works out great.
Yeah. Yes. So you were getting to the point of why you joined pageantry, and you said back into it at 35. So bring us to what was before that brought you to pageantry.
Sure. I have Asperger's, which is a type of autism. And as a child, I was sexually, physically, and emotionally abused. At the age of 16, my father physically assaulted me, and I had to have reconstructive surgery to put my face back together. And 3 months after that incident, my mom put me in a pageant to raise my self-esteem.
Oh, so it goes back farther than,
To
oh, I
16.
didn't. Oh my
Yeah.
God.
Yeah. Is that crazy? Yeah.
Wow, I'm so sorry I mean, they did a fabulous job, because you're absolutely stunning.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's actually this whole cheek, and then this cheek is still broken, but I mean, I'm not even wearing makeup or anything. I'm just like, okay, this is me. And I have to be really proud of that, because I think, I am 55. I think I look great, and I'm just like, just be myself. And I actually, I every morning I do a morning moment on my Instagram for the pageant, and I make sure that everyone sees me without my hair and makeup done, so that I'm my natural self, because my imperfections make me perfect, and that's what I
Oh,
love.
oh
So
gosh, I love that. Oh my gosh, your imperfections make you perfect.
yeah.
Thank you. See what I mean about women? Like I love
It's the way it should be. And that was with my pageant vlog. Like I interviewed Miss Universe. I've interviewed last several Miss Universes, but Zosie Toonsey, and her whole platform was about empowering women, and women stepping in and taking up space and making sure that we take up leadership roles. And she said at the current rate that we're at, it'll be over 100 years before women are equal with men. And yet we have so much power and so much ability to be able to multitask and do the amazing things that we do. And we still are not seen as equals. And it's such, I always find it so tremendously, I mean, inequality is part of the world, and that's what happens. But we have the ability to be able to be brave and take up space, and be able to say, you know what, I can do that. I can do that, and I just need to try to do it. So
that.
whatever it is.
Whatever it is, that's right. Take up your space.
Yeah.
Plant your feet and take up your space. I love that. And you're taking up your space, Stacey.
I hope so. I think I mean, you're as well. Like you're giving opportunities for people to share their story, and it has such a bigger depth these days. Like it used to be, to have an opportunity to be able to speak to a few people, you had to schedule, an interview someplace on TV, or to do a newspaper article, or to speak at an event. Technology enables us to be able to have that ability to go global, and you never know who that one person is that's going to hear what you're saying. And if you don't have platforms available to be able to do it, how is that going to happen? So thank you so much.
Thank you. But, oh my gosh, I didn't know that part. Like, your reconstructive surgery and what happened there. That's devastating. That's devastating. And then, so you were able to, thank God, get some reconstructive surgery. Your mom put you in pageantry. And, you know, I mentioned at the beginning that you're a 3-time cancer survivor.
Correct.
You had mentioned that. And, you know, I think because you probably, you know your own story and you've grown into your story, it's so easy for you to say, I was given terminal cancer and they told me I have 8 weeks to live. And I gasp. And to you, it's just a part of your life. But to me and my viewers, it's what?
What? Yes.
So, can I just ask you, I mean, you were like, oh, well, so if I'm going to die, I might as well try and help. But
Try it out.
that couldn't have been your emotions, you know, initially. How did you feel? How did you react when you were told that?
So when the way that they found the tumors, because I had one attached to my heart the size of my hand, and I had another one that went, now you're hearing I grew up in Detroit, so you can hear my Midwest, but the other tumor went from the tip of my shoulder and wrapped around my neck. And it actually had moved my trachea over. And the only reason that I found it is I got into a fender bender. And so I went to the hospital just to get checked out. And they came in, they said, well, you're going to stay for a little while. And I was like, what? And they put up the films, you know, the x-rays, just regular x-rays. And all you saw was black across my chest and across my neck. And I just looked at the doctor and she says, I've been doing this job as an ER doctor for 26 years, and I have never seen anything like this. And she sat down with me. Her name was Tracy. I just thought it was kismet that we were supposed to be together. And she took my hand and she's like, so we have to admit you. She's like, this is going to be a hard run. And I said, I get it. I said, it's just going to have to be what it's going to be. And she said, I've got to go make the paperwork. Let me leave. And she walked out and I laid there and tears just started coming out of my face and I couldn't control it. I think the thing that's helped me, Asperger's has become my superpower because it enables me to kind of compartmentalize and not feel the emotions quite the same way that other people do. So I mean, I did cry, I did get emotional, and I cried for about 20 minutes. And then I just went, okay, plan. That we need a plan. Like we need to have, I didn't think at any point, even when the doctor two days later came back after, you know, they did the biopsy and he said, you definitely have lymphoma. And he said, it's really, you know, it's infiltrated your heart. This is really significant. We really feel that you're going to be terminal. And my mom, I probably should go back. My mom had mental issues. So, you know, my mom looked at me after the doctor walked out and she said, how could you do this to me? What were you thinking? And I was like, I don't know, Mom. Kind of like my plan was to do this. Like that was, we had always had a very disassociative relationship. She has OCD. She has bipolar disorder. So there was a lot going on. And I just said, you know what, we're going to do whatever the doctor thinks. And that's what the plan is. And whether you think that this is being done to you or not, this is happening to me. And this is what I have to do.
Right.
And it was just plan oriented. I had just purchased my first business 6 months prior. And my business partner told me, well, you've got cancer. So what? You're going to work every day or you're paying somebody to go work for you. Right. And I was like, okay, well, I guess we're going to work.
That's a good motivation though. She was probably trying to push you so that you didn't.
Right. Well, I didn't tell anybody I was terminal. So because I actually probably that discussion with the doctor didn't happen in a public setting. My mom was not there. I'd asked my brother to leave and I sat down, you know, privately with the doctor and he's like, yeah, you're going to have to quit your job. He said, you can't work around kids. You're going to have to really start to really think about the things that are going to be important. And he's like, I'll meet you back in the office in 2 weeks and we'll talk about what your options are. And I said, okay. And, when we came back with the options, he said, I really think I've talked with my entire panel, and we really feel that this new possible protocol could be the option. And we'd really like to try it and see if it'll save your life. And I said, well, what's the other option? And he said, well, there are two other options. The other option is to go the previous protocol and see if it helps. He goes, you've got probably a 50-50 chance. He said, or you can do nothing and die in 8 weeks. So that's really what our options are. And I was like, all right, let's try the one we don't know. Let's go for it. I mean, if it helps somebody else, then my gift of my life has been helping somebody else.
Wow.
And that was it. It saved my life. Within less than 6 months, I had no tumors at
And you
all.
didn't tell anybody within that 6 months that you were terminal?
Nope, not one person. I couldn't say it.
Wow.
Oh, I'm gonna cry. And I don't usually cry. I'm sorry.
I cry oh my gosh, no. So you held that and had no support with that through that whole thing?
The only people that knew were I had a psychologist given to me, and then a social worker that was assigned to my case. And they told me later on, even the doctor told me later on, he goes, we were so convinced you were in denial. And I was like, I was not in denial. I remember sitting down with the psychologist and going, okay, I just need to know how to tell my 3-year-old students why my hair is going to fall out.
Oh, yeah.
Because they were my reason for living. My students were my reason for getting through it. I knew that being with them and being around them and being their light was so important. And I chose to not wear a wig. I chose not to wear a hat. I was bald, from the second treatment. And I remember a year after my diagnosis, one of my parents called me and they said, hey, we have got to tell you, thank you for being strong. Thank you for being brave, because my husband just was diagnosed with cancer. And we sat our sons down and said, hey, daddy has this thing called cancer. And they went, no problem. You're going to lose your hair and you're going to be sick a lot. It's fine. They're going to give you the black yucky medicine. And then, it'll just be like with Miss Stacy, it'll be okay. Because that's how I made it. I didn't want kids to be afraid to get medicine and think that their hair was going to fall out. So I told them that it was this black yucky medicine I had to take, and it made me sick, but eventually it would make me better. And so I came up with this whole dialogue to make it real for them. At the same time, making it real for me, except for ever really processing that I could have died. And it was kind of crazy. Now when I look back, I think I've done many interviews. I've been on international, national TV where people have asked.
Yeah, you've been on everything. You've been on the Today Show. You've been on oh my gosh, so many things.
Yeah, CNN, Today Show, Good Morning America. I've been on NBC Nightly News for different parts of the story, not even just this part of the story. And people would always say, what did you think? That question. And finally, one time I stopped rolling. I said, stop. It wasn't live TV. We were recording. And they said to me, have you never thought about last rites? Did you never think about trip around the world? Did you? And I went, no, that's absurd. Why would anybody think that? and she looked at me and she said, you're not grasping this, are you? Because this was probably 8 years later. So the first time that I actually, I guess we'll kind of go forward a little bit. September 11th was my diagnosis, 1996. So September 11th, the day that changed the world, was my 5-year anniversary of surviving.
Wow. That's a good anniversary though.
Ooh, I never forget. No one lets me.
Wow.
And I will be honest, I'm having a lot of feels this week. This week is I have really bad survivor's guilt. I think I got up that morning thinking I've been given a gift. God saved me. I made through this. It's a 5-year magic date. I know that it's going to be okay. And right before 9 o'clock, my a friend called me and said, don't turn on the TV. Whatever you do, don't turn on the TV. And I was like, well, what are you going to do? You're going to turn on the TV. And I watched it all unfold. Like, he knew that that was like, I was already in a place where I was just like, okay, we're having a party today, and this is my 5-year survivor. And that's when they say you're cured. With blood cancers, it's 7 years, but in my brain, I didn't care. I was like, we made this to this magic point. So, and I went into a really bad depression for weeks, because I was like, why did thousands of people die? Why did I get chosen? Why? There was lots of whys. And at that point, my business was a multi-million-dollar business that I had started 5 years before. And I just started soul searching. Like, I really needed to know what I needed to do, what was purposeful. Mm-hmm. And I sold my business for $10 on a laptop and moved to Texas to go work for Kim Zmeskal, the Olympic medalist for gymnastics. You know, and who when I interviewed for the job said, Stacey, I've been to your gyms. Why are you doing this? And I went, I don't know. Like, my dream has always been to be with a bunch of Olympians. So why not?
Why not?
Why not? I have 9/11 made me realize why not. Not why I questioned for several weeks. But within 8 weeks of 9/11 happening, I had sold my business, my home, moved to Dallas, sight unseen. And I came across a brochure for the Leukemia Lymphoma Society, and it was about doing their team in training, their endurance program, to raise money for them. And I was like, I'm going to do that. I'm going to ride 100 miles. And my doctor went, no, you're not. So the first time I ever told anybody I was terminal was in front of a bunch of strangers. I went to one of the recruitment meetings, stood up in front of a bunch of strangers, and said on September 11th, 1996, I was given 8 weeks to live. I was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma.
Still, I'm just like welling up, and I'm trying not to I'm trying to be professional here.
No, but it's okay.
Yeah.
It's emotional. Like, it is emotional. Like, and don't think that I don't get emotional. Like, I do. Like, and right now it's very, you know, this is a very hard time for me. I watched the pictures. I mean, I hadn't been to the Trade Center sites, to the memorial pools, until 2019. So two years ago, I walked New York Fashion Week.
Oh, that's
53.
Awesome.
I walked New York Fashion Week, and the show was right next to the memorial. So it was September 11th weekend, and we went, and I just cried, and I said, you know what? All of these people died, but I promise you, I'm going to make a difference in people's lives, no matter what happens, no matter what we do. I'm going to share my story and make sure that I do every single one of those people proud. So,
and you are.
I hope so.
So, Stacey, when you said three times, so
I'm on number 4 right now. So I'm actually going through chemo right now.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. This is my hair. It didn't fall out this time. So it's actually kind of cool. Wow, technology has changed. Okay, yeah, okay, that was very strange, but
I got what you meant though.
So luckily I had early intervention. So my secondary cancer was 2008. I found a lump in my breast I was getting mammograms starting at 35, because I had chemotherapy and radiation, and my radiation, since it was across my chest and around my neck, was my entire upper, from my chin to the middle of my chest, on front and back. And thusly, there is the chance of getting many other things from that. So, and what the doctor, when I said to the doctor, when he told me, well, there's a risk that you're going to get other cancers. And I was like, well, what's the risk? He's like, probably about 35%. And I was like,
wow.
well, again, why? And he's like, maybe we'll have a cure in 15 years. And I went, all right, let's roll with it. Sure, why not? I mean, he was very honest with me, and we actually, like, we had a great relationship. My original oncologist was wonderful. So, so they found it early, and they just did a lumpectomy, and then I was done, and didn't have to do any treatments, which was fantastic. It was like literally like half a stage. It wasn't even stage 1.
Right.
And then in 2010, I was training for a marathon, and I was doing a team and training event, and decided I was going to do a half marathon. I didn't care what it took. I was going to do it. And I kept coming home from trainings and was coughing up blood, and I didn't know what was going on, and kept going to the ER, and the ER kept saying, well, I think it's pneumonia. I mean, I have asthma. So they thought, maybe there's something that we see, but we don't know what it is. And treat me with antibiotics and sent me home. And then finally, on the third time that I went into the ER, one of the doctors said, has anybody checked your heart? And I was like, why would anybody check my heart? Like, what are you talking about? He's like, you had a tumor on your heart. And I went, okay, so sure. And it turned out when they checked that I actually had a heart failure. I had heart failure caused by my chemotherapy, which they now know is a side effect of the chemotherapy drug. They didn't understand it when I was using it. And he said, well, it's pretty, I mean, like my heart function, I think at that point was 35%. They say that 30% is where you officially become disabled and you're not able to do normal things. And he said, we're going to put you on some medication and see if we can normalize you. And I was like, okay. And within 6 weeks, I was back to training. I went back to doing what I was doing. And the irony of that is a friend of mine from my training group saw something on my back and said, doesn't look right. Actually, he's one of my friends that was with me when I was originally diagnosed with my first cancer. And he said, there's something on your back. I think we need to get it checked. And I was like, no, I'll get it checked, whatever. And he took me, he works at a children's hospital, and I was visiting him at the hospital. He goes, I need you to meet this doctor. And she literally took me, laid me down and went, we're checking you, and did a biopsy right then and there because I was being so like flippant about it. And it turned out it was stage 3 skin cancer. So, and that was 4 weeks after being diagnosed with heart failure. Yeah. So
your body has been through a lot of trauma.
It has been through my body is an amazing vehicle. Like, I am so vintage, it's not even funny. And I must be like the Rolls Royce of cars, because it has been through, and it keeps going. And I believe really my brain, my spirit, my soul, my will to live is really what enables my body to keep going. So, yeah.
So when in all of this, did you decide to like take a bike ride? And
so the following year, so a year after I it was about a year and a half after the skin cancer diagnosis, I decided to do a try for the same organization.
Why not?
I mean, at that point, I had raised almost $2 million for them, like through working with the teams that I had worked with. So I thought, and actually helped to, when I was working with them in Dallas, I actually helped with developing or funding a new drug called Gleevec, which actually is how they treat a lot of leukemias now, cure a lot of leukemias. So like to be part of that history, I think is pretty fantastic.
Yes.
And so I said, okay, let me do a try. Let's try it. Why not? Yeah, I mean, it's less running, it's a little bit of everything. And my first big ride out, I was on the way back, and I was in the bike lane, and ironically in the intersection of a hospital, and a vehicle, a service truck did not stop at the red light, wasn't paying attention, ran right through the red light, and I went underneath the vehicle.
Oh my gosh. So what happened? Like, were you knocked out, wake up in the hospital? Like, what happened?
I don't, I know, and I don't know how. I pulled myself out from underneath the truck. The handlebars were in my abdomen.
Oh my gosh.
And I remember seeing the bottom of the truck, like the underneath of the truck. I don't ever want to see
No.
any vehicle. It was way more than I ever, and I just remembered thinking, I have got to get out from underneath here. I was pinned. And so I pulled the handlebars somehow and pulled myself out. And a police officer was driving past and saw the accident happen. And so he got out, and as I went to stand, because I was covered in blood, and he grabbed my shoulder and he's like, do not move.
Shock will make you do lots of things.
It was, you hear those stories about unbelievable strength, things that happen when I see it from an outsider's perspective. I see the moment underneath the truck, and then from there on out, I don't see anything else from my personal perspective.
Right. Wow.
I just remember, I mean, I do remember it was 6 EMTs that looked at me and they said that bike saved your life. It was a really expensive bike that a friend of mine had passed away a year before, and I had inherited it, and it was titanium. And they said, what do you want us to do with the bike? And I went, do you think I'm ever getting back on a bike?
Oh my God. But you probably did, knowing you that I know of you now in this interview. You probably did.
It took a really long time. Like it took 7 years before I don't do, I may have done a couple of other, I've done 5Ks and 10Ks, but I haven't done anything like that anymore. Yeah. It took a really long time. It took me a long time to be able to hear loud noises, to be around trucks. Like I really had some PTSD. So it was a process. And I ended up having 20 damaged vertebra. So I have 20 damaged discs as well. I have nothing holding my right knee together. I have nothing holding my left shoulder together, because the impact was, my left shoulder was where the initial impact hit. And then I literally tipped over and went underneath the truck. So I hit my right side and my knee took the impact of the right side. So, and I had to learn how to walk again and learn how to do things that you just think are so basic that you don't realize. And the remarkable part about it is I was doing rehab and I was bored at home. I couldn't work. At that point, my business was just me. I opened my own business to Imagination, and it was just myself, and I was the only employee, and I had to kind of figure out what I was going to do with my business. And I closed for several months while I tried to figure out what I was going to do. And I went online and started internet dating because I was bored. And the man that I met online is now my husband.
Oh,
yeah. He is the most amazing human being. And I can't believe that he's been with me. I mean, at that point, shortly after meeting him, I had 2 spinal surgeries and a neck surgery, and then 1 knee surgery. And then they told me that my heart was failing, that that I needed to have an emergency defibrillator put in to keep my heart going. My heart function had dropped to 10%. And on Valentine's Day, they put in the defibrillator. And while they were putting it in, they pulled my boyfriend aside and said, listen, she's probably not going to make it more than a couple of weeks.
Oh my gosh, Stacy.
Yeah. And he proposed, and we got married in the hospital.
Oh my God.
On Valentine's Day.
That's like a romance, like
it is the most romantic and sweet, and honestly the best He's the most phenomenal human. Like he just is, he was meant to be there for me. And
Oh,
we got married on February 29th, 2012. So on Valentine's Day, he proposed. And then 2 weeks later, we got married. And we had a subsequent ER visit. It seemed like I was always in the ER having problems with breathing and, issues with my heart and not feeling stable. And a young fourth year said, I know they told you you've got to get a transplant, because they said I needed to get a transplant to survive, that my heart wouldn't. And he said, I think you'd be the perfect candidate for this stem cell opportunity. We have a stem cell program here. And I said, well, I've heard about stem cells for cancer. Like I don't have cancer. And he said, nope. He says, we have a cardiac stem cell program that is in the trial phases right now. And I've been working with them, and I think you would be a phenomenal candidate. And I was like,
okay.
all right, sure. I mean, why not? And so I met with the head of the cardiac, the head of the institute. He's actually the doctor that's in charge of the entire program. And he's like, honestly, he's like, you are a fantastic candidate. Your story is remarkable. We would love to have you, but you don't fit the parameters of the study. He said, I'm going to have to actually go to the National Institute of Health and get an exception to have you in it, because women's hearts do not fit the protocol.
Oh.
So it took 2 years of us trying to keep me alive so that I could get my own stem cells. They extracted them from my own hip, and the same time that I got my stem cells, another woman in the next OR got stem cells that were mine to save her life.
Really?
So my stem cells saved 2 women.
So, oh, that makes me so emotional. Yeah, that's awesome. I don't even want to think you went through all this stuff, and sometimes you're like, why? Like,
no, I know why.
This is, I don't know if you ever have to ask why again, because that right there is just phenomenal.
My hope is that we save a lot of people's lives. It's not just, there is a little caveat to that part of the story too. So why they were in there putting in my stem cells, because they do it through a cardiac cath, they found a 90% blockage to my heart, which would have killed me. Like if they hadn't have got, like it, my story is a story of miracles. Like there is, it is very, I always say it's extraordinary, but it is way beyond extraordinary. It's like, I don't talk about it like this often, but there's divine intervention. There's no doubt in my mind that I don't know what my purpose is, but there is a purpose, and I am going to live my life purposefully. And so I ended up having to have a double bypass, because that is typically the widowmaker. That's usually you drop dead.
Yeah.
And then it started a whole different line. I was always a cancer survivor, and then I became a woman that was a huge advocate for the American Heart Association, and making sure that I share my story, and that I'm wearing red. I wear red all the time. I mean, not all the time. Like I vacillate between red and blue because of the pageant, but I became an advocate for sharing that 1 in 3 women die of heart disease. It's the leading killer of women in the world. And we don't know half the time that we are, maybe it's not 1 in 3, but it is the number 1 killer. I say 1 in 3, and then I went, oh, that's the wrong statistic. But it is the number 1 killer of women in the world. And we often let ourselves go to the sidelines. We don't take care of ourselves because we're taking care of so many other people and so many other things, and we're always juggling. And also historically, it's always been, oh, men have heart attacks, men have strokes. There wasn't enough information about women and heart disease and strokes, and that it can happen to anybody.
Yes.
And so that's really, and what I've been working forward to since then is trying to make sure that we help other people understand, you can do hands only CPR. You don't have to breathe somebody's breath to save a life. You can do
Yeah.
compressions on their chest. And okay, if you break a rib, who cares? You've
Exactly.
saved their life.
Exactly.
Those minutes that you're there making their heart pump can be the difference between life or death.
Yeah.
And most women won't get CPR because people are afraid
Yes.
of hurting them. So,
Yeah.
anyways, that was.
But so you talk about, supporting, you're like an ambassador, you represent
Yes.
a very important organization. Now, I did hear somewhere, and I don't know if it's through this organization, but okay, so you have Miss Achievement World 2022, and all of that is kind of like intertwined in everything you've just said, because why do you have this achievement award? What does this even mean? But being an ambassador and representative of an organization, can you just tell us a little bit about that? And then I heard the number, and it's probably higher now, of why you are Miss Achievement, but talk to me about the organization that you are ambassador of.
Okay, so the Ms. Achievement World, or you want of the American Heart Association? Which one?
Well, you're the American Heart Association, you're ambassador for them, correct?
Yes, I'm an ambassador for their heart failure unit. And I also work with Go Red as well, which Go Red is for women. It's their February campaign where they highlight women's health and how to be able to protect people. And then I'm also part of last year was the first year they had a new event called Women of Impact, where you raise money and awareness to be able to hopefully help share the information for the American Heart Association. I was the third runner-up for that, which I came in third against 2 hospitals. So I was like, okay,
Yes.
good.
That's amazing.
And then Ms. Achievement World has been around unofficially. It started in the 90s as an online pageant called Mrs., Ms., and Ms. American Achievement. And then it became a Ms. Achievement or Ms. Achievement World in the early 2000s. And then it became another live pageant after that. And when I came back to pageantry at 35, because that was the other thing, I had a dream I wanted pageant after everything that had happened with my diagnosis, and that whole soul searching after 9/11 was really, how do I share my story? How do I do this? What do I do? And I had a dream I won a pageant. I went, that's it. I can wear a crown and I can tell people my story, and everyone's going to be so inspired. And so the last 20 years have been doing that. And the woman that is the director of the pageant now, I remember seeing her. She was Mrs. Galaxy, which is another large pageant. And she was previous to that Mrs. American Achievement. And I thought she was the most amazing human. And I saw her and I said, I want to be just like her. And I mean, the irony is, like, we're 6 weeks apart, like we're the same age. So I'd just be like, I want to grow up, be just like her.
Yeah.
And she had come as a guest on one of my shows, and I was talking to her and I said, I know you've got Dr. World. She started the Dr. World organization 2 years ago for women that have doctorates, because why not highlight
Exactly.
the world's doctors are women?
Yes.
And why not give them a platform to be able to share everything that they are doing, especially right now in the midst of the pandemic?
Yes.
So the very first Dr. World was crowned last year. And then in the middle of all of this, have to deal with everything that's going on and everything that's changed the world.
Yeah.
And I was talking to her after the show and I said, gosh, I wish Achievement World was still around. She goes, I just brought it back. And I went, no. And she said, yeah. And I said, oh my God, I cannot believe that you would do that. Like, I wanted to be you. I wanted to have this title. This is the title I have dreamt about for 20 years. And she said, well, I think that this was meant to happen. And so I represent the United States in July, and I won the world title, and proud to be able to wear this crown, have this opportunity. to share my story, but more importantly, just to share the story of empowered women. Like we need to have opportunities to have women to really share their stories, be bold.
Yeah.
We spend so much time living in fear and so much time, and I do too, like, don't think that I don't, I do. But taking a moment and just saying, you know what, if I just ease into this discomfort, if I ease into this and I take a bold step, something amazing is going to happen. And with everything that's happened, that has really been the key piece for me. I can be afraid and let fear paralyze me,
Yeah.
or I can take a step of faith, step off the edge and see.
Yeah. Yeah.
It has been great because it's given me life. So
It's such an amazing story, Stacey. And it's real life. It's not just, it's not a Harlequin movie that we're watching on TV and you sit there with your bonbons and your Kleenex. This is a real life. This is real life.
or a really good telenovela. I haven't quite decided which one it's going to be, because that's the other thing too, is I use humor as a way to get through it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to lie. There are days when I can't get out of bed. There are weeks where I can't get out of bed. Like, it's just, my body hurts everywhere. I can never describe what it feels like on a normal day to do things. But some days are good, some days are bad, and you just roll with it. I always say, today I got up, so that's a good day. Because you never know what's going to be. You can, and would it be really easy to be depressed? Yes.
It's the easiest way.
Mm-hmm. It would be really easy to be angry. It would be really easy to be depressed.
Yeah.
But your body hears that.
That's right.
So choose happiness.
The power of the mind over our body. I don't know who I was talking about the other day, maybe my husband, something similar to what you just said. Like, somebody asked us, my husband and I, do you believe that your body can heal you? Do you believe that your thoughts and your words can destroy or heal your body? And we're like, of course, like, yes, like, you can bring to fruition. So if you choose, and you've had many opportunity to sit there and say, I can't do this anymore. You've had many, like, treatments after spinal surgery, neck surgery, knee surgery, heart surgery, cancer numerous times, all of these things. You've had numerous times to say, I can't do this.
Right.
But your body and your mind become one. And what we say can really, really make a difference in our own being, because these are perfectly complex machines, these bodies.
They are, but they're machines.
Yes. Yes.
And your computer is your brain, and your brain controls the machine.
Yes. It's so true. Wow, you're an inspiration beyond an inspiration. And, like I was saying with the Harlequin movies, I really think that this is something, so, I'm sure you've thought about it. I'm sure many people have brought it to your attention. I don't know what it looks like. Doing something with this, I don't know if it's, a TV series, if it's like something you've got a lot to offer to inspire. Just hearing your story, like, I want people to share this and share this and share this. Like, any of my listeners right now, if you're going through something or know somebody who's going through something, honestly, send them this video. Send them this video and say, listen to this woman. And I can honestly say that I'm pretty sure a good majority of the people are going to sit up a little bit straighter and say, yeah, I can do this, just by hearing your story.
I hope so. I came back to Miami in 2010 when everything started happening, with the heart failure and everything. And the reason I'd come home is because a good friend of mine was diagnosed with end-stage pancreatic cancer. And she said, I need you home. And I'm like, I've got a business. I've got a life in Texas. Like, I can't just leave. And she's like, I'll pay for you to live with me. Like, whatever you need, you move in with me. I don't care. I need you here. And so I was like, hearing that call.
Yeah.
and going, okay, I'm doing it. I'll just like, I got nothing tying me to Texas other than my business, whatever. It's just money. I mean, honestly, money is peripheral. It's not, I
Yeah.
mean, is it nice to make you more comfortable? Yes, but at the end of the day, it's peripheral. And excuse me. And so I came home, and we made all these plans, like things that we were going to do together. Like we were starting the business. I was going to start the business again. She's like, I will make sure that you've got enough money. We will get it going again. You're going to be super successful in Miami. You're going to put your ex-business partner out of business. Like she had these all, I mean, it was positive, because that was the whole thing, is like, what is our future going to be like? How are we going to take on the world?
Yes.
And 2 days before she passed away, she looked at me. I will cry for this. And she said, "What would you want to hear at your funeral?" And I'm like, why would you please, like that's crazy. Why would you even ask me that question? Like, we both know that I don't want to think about that. And she's like, I seriously want to know what you would want to hear at your funeral. And I thought about it for a few minutes, and I said, took a big sigh, and I said, I would want to know that I changed someone's life. And she looked at me and she said, you have. And she died 2 days later, and I was speaking at her funeral 3 days later. And the synagogue was filled with people, and love, pure love. And I'm telling this story, and just thought, that's what I want.
Yeah. Yeah.
So my saying that I say, I don't know if I took it from somewhere else. I always say it's my quote, but I say that a drop in the ocean eventually becomes a wave of change.
Yes.
Be the drop.
Be the drop. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's my job.
That's beautiful. And that is your job. That is your job.
And if somebody, if it's someone here that hears it, if it's someone, I mean, I had a book deal at one point, and then I got hit by the truck. I was literally writing the book, and I went, well, not time to write it then, I guess. It's just, it became really painful to relive things going through something at the same time.
Yes.
And my husband was like, are you ever going to finish it? And I'm like, I think that there's more to the story. I think that something's going to happen. If it becomes a movie, if it becomes a telenovela, I do feel that it's not. Because honestly, people are like, soap opera stuff. This is the stuff that writers dream of.
Right.
But if it happens, it happens. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. But if you hear my story and that enables you to get through a rough day, I've done my job. So.
Yeah. Well, and I'm so eternally grateful for you sharing your story.
My pleasure.
I'm really, really grateful for you sharing your story. And, it's not done. Your story's not done.
No.
One day, when you're like 99.9 years old, there'll be somebody who's knows your story, and they'll finish your book for you.
I hope, even so, like I always say, I live the legacy of the people that came before me. And I hope that I don't have kids, but I have, we have 375 students in our gym. And I know that if there's one child that walks away and goes, I want to be just like Miss Stacey, I'm golden.
And over the years that there's been many who have said that.
One of the anesthesiologists, the day that I was getting my defibrillator put in, looks at me and she goes, Miss Stacey? And I went, yeah, yes. And she's like, I had you when I was 6.
No way. Oh my gosh, that's exciting.
Yeah, when I had to be rushed in March 2020, at the beginning of the pandemic, closed down. I was having problems with my heart and had to go to the hospital. And the EMT that was the lieutenant on the truck looked at me and he goes, you're Miss Stacey.
Oh my gosh, Stacey.
And I was like, yes. And my husband went, never mind, she'll be fine now. Okay, just talk to her. By the time I got to the hospital, like I had all my stats, I knew exactly what was going on with my body. We sat down with the doctors, but it was so funny because, you know, that's a legacy. That's
Yes. You're putting you're on people's hearts. That's amazing.
So,
but, you know, I don't want to let you go without telling people where you are and what you're doing, because, you know, you've talked about your business and you've talked about the success and your kids, and you mentioned it at the beginning though, but you have a couple businesses. You run a gym for children, right? It's a gymnastics.
It's called Gymagination. The name of it was founded by a 3-year-old that walked in and said, Miss Stacy, are we going to use our Gymagination today? And I was like, as soon as I write that down.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So you have that and you're doing well with that. You've got your students and you've got your PageantryNOW. Is that what it's called?
Yeah, PageantryNOW.
So, and that's very cool. And people can find you with, I'll put all that information up, like it'll be up for them to see, and I'll do all the hashtags, and but on Instagram they can find you at PageantryNOW.
At PageantryNOW, one word together, and then also at Gymagination. So imagine it's Gym GYM Agination. And then also at MS Achievement World. You can find me there as well. And then also on Facebook for all 3 of them as well. You send me a direct message. You've got a question. If you're having a bad day, if you want someone just to chat with, generally I make my time available, but I am grateful for opportunities like this to share my story. So thank you.
I'm not letting you go without one more thing. Okay. I want my listeners and my viewers to know. Miss Achievement World 2022, you know, everything you've been through, but we didn't hit on one thing that I am fascinated about, because we can't even get high school kids to do their 40 hours of volunteer work.
Oh, that number you want to know? Over the course of me doing all of these crazy things, I have volunteered over 15,000 hours. And I am the recipient of the President's Call to Service Award that not most individuals will ever receive. And I'm grateful for that opportunity to give back, because at the end of the day, you know, again, money is money, but your heart, giving back your time is so important. And these organizations that I support are so important, and that's really where I choose to serve. And with our system, the 3 tiers of service are community service, mentoring, and then education, and that just ties in so perfectly with everything that is what I do. So
that is beautiful. So thank you so much for what you do.
My pleasure. Thank you for what you do as well.
Well, thank you. But, you know, and I am, as most of us are, we love our military men and women, everything they do for us. But I don't want people to forget that there are people that we pass on the street every day that don't wear the military uniform, that is doing so much out there, and you're one of them. And so I want to thank you for that. Oh, I'm going to get emotional again. We have to remember to be kind to people. We don't know what they're going through. We don't know what their day or their year or their week has been like. We don't know what's happening in people's lives. We need to be kind, and we need to serve one another. I'm a huge proponent of serving one another.
I agree. I agree wholeheartedly.
Thank you for doing that. Thank you for your service. I mean, Miss Achievement World. World.
It sounds so ominous. The saddest thing is, like, with the world right now, I can't even go anywhere. So I do everything virtually until such a time that I can, but this enables me to travel the globe in an instant instead of actually traveling somewhere. So
exactly. Thank you so much, Stacy.
I'm so blessed. Thank you so much.
You're so blessed, and so am I. Thank you. And I'm going to have all of your information up there. And for my listeners, again, I just want to tell you how much I appreciate you. I say it every episode, and I mean it with my heart. You take the time to tune in, to listen, to watch. I'm so grateful. And as always, don't forget to share, subscribe, tweet, download, share. I don't know, send a pigeon. Tell everybody they should be watching and listening to This Is Your City. Stay safe and stay blessed. Ciao. Thank you, Stacy.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.